if you could tell young Eric, anything about your journey so far, because you're still playing. I mean, I don't think your journey's ever going to stop, with the game, whether you're a fan or, you're playing still, you're rooting for your sister or whoever else, close friends, like you're always gonna be a part of the game. I like to refer to it as a community. Um, but if you could, give yourself some maybe feedback, or words of wisdom, experience. I still remember being 20 years old and someone saying, well, you don't have life experience. And I remember being 20 years old going like, what do you mean? I'm 20 years old. I've been alive for 20 years. And like now I know what that means based on, life going on. So what would you tell yourself? And not necessarily to make yourself be at a higher level or, to achieve, a certain status within the game for yourself, but just in general, like what would you tell yourself?
Yeah. I'd probably tell myself to not sweat the mistakes. That's not the small mistakes. Obviously, if you make a mistake, you want to improve on it and get better on it. But I would sweat it too much, like an unreasonable amount. Like no one else was as hard as, like no one else noticed the little things that I noticed, and I was like, ah. So like for example, like I thought I had a bad game. I made a few misplaced passes, or my pass didn't lead the player in the right direction I wanted it to, and I was like, I had the worst game ever, you know. And then I would like, after the game, after I put my sandals on, I walked to my parents, and my dad's like, "Oh, good game, son. Like, so get some food." And I'm like, "What?" Like I played, like I had the worst game of my life, and he was like, "What? Like what? Like why do you think that? Like no one else thinks that except you." And and I think like thinking like that and putting that much pressure on myself, it kind of, that's why my confidence levels would go up and down. It was like I was so hard on myself when I make a little mistake. It was like, it's the end of the world. And then whenever I did like something good, it was like, "Ah, I'm the best player in the world. You know, it's like nothing can stop me." And it was like it was those highs and lows, but it was that's what I wish like I knew growing up. It was like it's okay to like when you make a mistake, just but you gotta fix it in the future.
Mm.
Like it's okay to make the mistake, but you can't just be like, oh no, like made a bad pass. It's like understand you made a bad pass. Like, okay, what can I do to fix it in the next play? Or okay, how can I train? Like, how can I tell Mike I made this mistake during the game? How can we fix it? How can we train to fix that into the future?
Mm.
I think that's important on if you want to like continue to get better and better. It was don't sweat the mistake, learn from the mistake. So it's like stuff like that.
Yeah, it's I've come in my current coaching verbiage, it constantly evolves. And it's also obviously very subjective, which I think people forget. Like it's a very subjective game. I mean, most games are. For example, like some fan can say, "Oh, that team they shouldn't low press," and then the team itself is like, "No, we need a low press because we want to be able to compete against these people. Like we got to sit back." So, point being, I like to try to use not the mantra, but like minimize mistakes, maximize opportunities, because in the game, it's all risk. It's
Yeah.
essentially a chess match at the higher level, right? Like when you're young and you're playing 7v7, 9v9, yeah, you have that one player that can just, you know, like just go and do his thing or go and do her thing. Like, yeah, like that's great. But when you can get organized, I go back to watching Stanford and UCLA yesterday. Like, it was unbelievable the organization those teams
Yeah.
had. And it came down to a set piece. Came down to a set
Wow.
piece in the 89th minute and change. Like, and you can see the the pissed off reaction from some of the UCLA players because it's like, it's like you work that hard and like off a set piece, you guys get scored on. Um,
Yeah.
so so
Fortunate.
yeah, I think so no one helped you talk through that in terms of like seeing how bogged down you were, like, or do you even think that at that point in time that would have been helpful? Because I mean, like I said, I remember my experience with you is that you were very hard on yourself. um
Mm.
so have you changed that in terms of in your life, or like in life aspects, or are you still pretty like hard on yourself to the point where it's a detriment?
I definitely have an ex high expectation for myself now. Like I always have an expectation I have for myself. And obviously that's a high expectation, but like now it's like I don't really sweat it. If I had also I'm also not playing in college, I'm not playing, D1, D2, D3, community college, whatever it is. So if I was still playing, I think I would still have a like I still put a lot of pressure, but I think like obviously, right now I'm just, playing pickups and stuff, so my pressure isn't too high. But when it comes to like going to school, like I have to go to school every single day. It's like I have this high
I hope
expectation
so.
for myself. No, yeah, obviously, I have to. But like it's putting too much pressure on myself. I don't do that anymore.
Mm.
It's I've kind of calmed down in that aspect, but I still have high expectations for myself to continue getting better than how I was before, like from the year before, I want to get better grades. And like, I was talking about how I got cut, from in sophomore year, and now like my grades are way higher than it was in high school, and I'm going to university now.
Mm.
So it's like I'm always trying to like do better whilst also I'm trying to do better because I have a higher expectation for myself, you know. I guess that kind of answers your question. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think that there's so much we can take away from your experience and talking about. It sounds like you were too hard on yourself sometimes, and I think balance is probably the best word.
Yeah.
When it comes to probably a lot of things in life, you don't want to overdo or consume certain things. You don't want to, you don't want to not push yourself and be sedentary and just kind of like, do nothing. But, um, you know, I don't think you realize how much you worked hard. I mean, you say that you worked
Uh,
hard, but I don't think you acknowledge
yeah.
yourself, because I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I was your club coach, or just maybe your coach for a team, um, yeah, if you're working that hard, I mean, you're going to make mistakes. So it's like, from a coaching perspective, it's like if you're not working hard and you're making
Mm.
mistakes and you kind of look like you don't necessarily care, and maybe that's just your natural body language. But for you, I think, yeah, I mean, do you really believe you worked hard? Because I mean, you do. Like, you really work really
Yeah.
hard, but it sounds like you also didn't give yourself enough credit.
Yeah. So my biggest thing was for as much as like I would work, like I would train like 3 times a day. It was like train in the morning, work out, do like my like weightlifting, and then I would go play pickups, and then that was like kind of my day. And then I would kind
Mm,
of incorporate stuff like that. But
mm,
it was like the thing that kind of messed me up the most was if I did all that stuff and I worked as hard as I could, then I still didn't play good. And then it was like that's what really I think that's kind of why I always still put pressure on myself even though I was still working super hard. It was like I'm training, 3 times a day. I'm doing 2 a days, I'm back to back training, and it's like and I'm still not playing good. It's like, am I not working hard enough? That's I feel like that's kind of what I was kind of going through in regards to like why I don't understand like my work ethic. I think it was just because I wanted to be so because a lot of I would surround myself by good players, like my sister's a good player, I was
she's not
able to
bad.
play with my friends now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she gets the job done, whatever. But like obviously like I had people around me that were really good, and I was like, I need to be as good as them. So I was training, 3 times a day. Then it was like I still wasn't as good as them. Like I need to work harder. I need to do 4 days. I need to do 5 a days. Not like 5 a days. That's obviously too much training. But like, okay, I need to do more then. Like obviously, like I need to get on their level. They're probably doing more than me.